Hey gang, sorry about this sort of boring background, but until I've got all my mic sorted out and everything, I'm just finding it easier to use my phone. Uh, Got both air conditioners on as well. These old ratty things making a lot of noise, but hopefully you can hear me. Anyway, it's after midnight. It's now September 11th, but September 10th is also going to go down as a tragic day. It's been a horrible day. Charlie Kirk was murdered today. And let's get one thing straight right off the bat. Charlie Kirk he was not murdered because he was a fascist or a extremist or a hate speech guy or any of the other things that TikTok and X are trying to say about him now. And there are some really, truly disgusting things being said online, people jumping up and down with glee. No, he was murdered because he was effective, right? The guy made reasoned, sophisticated arguments, but he always looked for the humanity in the people that he debated with. And he didn't always agree with those arguments, and that's fine, but that was his whole stance. It was like, he always said that once the discussion ends, it ends with violence. And yeah, some fucktard took that to heart and decided to kill him, murder him. And at this time, we don't have the shooter in custody. There were a couple times we thought we had the guy. I'm told there's a horrible video going around, close-up showing the moment he was shot. The only thing I saw was from a distance. I'm really glad that I was not traumatized like the algorithm. I was teaching. Actually, it was one of my students told me, she was like, "Are you into politics?" She was the one American girl, and I said, "Well, not really." But she said, "You know Charlie Kirk?" I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, he just died 6 minutes ago." I knew going into class that he'd been shot. Initially, we had heard he'd been stabilized for a little while, but then President Trump was saying things were looking bad. And yeah, a friend of mine told me that I met Charlie a few years ago. He would have been quite young and not quite famous yet, but apparently I met him at a conference. But I don't really recall that happening. But he did so much in a short period of time. He was not afraid to put his head above the parapet. And the fact is, you know, he kind of lived by the sword and died by the sword, and I don't mean that to demean him at all. I mean that to actually say he was a hero. And I've kind of cowered in my corner in Bermuda because of how small the place is. The first sign of resistance, I've sort of backed down because I could never get the support of any kind of conservative group or whatnot to back me. Like Charlie was very good at finding the right allies to keep his cause going, and to be able so that he could provide for a wife and kids. Whereas with me, I would just write the occasional article and lose my job and get my life destroyed as a result. But this isn't about me. This is about him. He was a true hero. He was a true patriot. He was a true man of God. I've already shed a tear because of his wife and the 1 and 3-year-old daughters that he leaves behind. It's horrendous. And I got to say, part of me really wants to take up arms and start fighting, because we kind of realize that there's an implacable enemy that just wants to see traditional values and so on dead. But there's another part of me that screams for maturity and temperance, and to not allow me to give way to hating, because I feel that the media's job is to make us hate each other. It's to keep us divided. It's to keep us at each other's throats. One, because it's good for profit maximization, but it also it gives whomever is in power in the mono party of the United States, because I'm not thinking for a second there's a huge difference between Repubs and Dems. It gives them the excuse to expand the surveillance state and take away your civil liberties even more, all under the guise of saying we're doing it on the, for the cause of free speech and your Second Amendment rights and so on. I worry what's happening in the U.S. It comes at an interesting time. I think if it had come at the beginning of August, when it was a lot hotter, we might have had a civil war on our hands. But between this and that horrific murder of that sweet little Ukrainian gal, where I've seen the whole tape of that, and that is horrible. She just sort of crouches and sort of, yeah, she kind of didn't understand what was happening at first, and then she just suddenly slumps over. But the horrific part is that the guy then walks away, and the 5 people that are all sitting around her, they're not in any danger at this point. I mean, they were all sort of women, and I could get it that they wouldn't jump up at this crazy guy with a knife. But once that guy walked away, he walked right out of the carriage, right into a different one, they just ignored her. That poor thing was just left to die on her own. And there was a bit of pattern recognition going on there, because she didn't look like them. And, some people say, oh, they make excuses. Oh, it's just New Yorkers. I'm like, yeah, well, if that's true, then we've really lost our humanity. But the optics on that one were pretty bad. But again, maybe that's why the media covered this one, or failed to cover it. It didn't fit their preferred narrative, but it also, once they did start covering it, it can be weaponized as a political football by the right as well. So the point of it is we have to be realistic about how the world is now, and how there are evil people, and that identity politics has created such ugliness in the world. We have to be realistic about that and realize that there is tribalism, that there are differences between people and clashes of civilizations going on all the time. But at the same time, as Christians, we do have to rise above that to a certain degree. That we, those that give their lives to Jesus Christ, although we're still, may still have separate cultures and so on, we can't allow ourselves to give way to irrational hatred. You can be discerning. You can be, you can have your eyes wide open and see what's going on. But to give way to like blind hatred is something that we have to guard against. This sort of mad thirst for vengeance, where we leave all reason and temperance and proportionality behind and just be guided by our emotions, fueled by endless memes and news reports, is something that we have to guard against. Murderers have to be brought to justice. This is a spiritual war as well as a physical one. I'm not shying away from that. I'm not a fucking pacifist pussy saying, oh, let's all just hold hands and love Jesus. No, we got to fight back. But we have to fight a just war, not a war that is just obsessed with vengeance and settling scores. A just war will balance the scales, but it is done in a modest way. Yeah, those are just my thoughts. God rest your soul. Charlie Kirk, I'm so sorry for your family. Pray for the soul of that poor little girl from Ukraine. And I pray for the days ahead to come.